Hey, welcome to Seduction Tech. In Seduction Tech, a lot of people ask, is it seduction technician? Is it seduction technology? Is it seduction techniques? And it's all of that. It's all of that. So speaking of technicians, I'm here with one of my best, if not the best friend from growing up, from way back in middle school when we both didn't speak English and we were ESL classes. Like he didn't speak English and he spoke, French Creole and I spoke Spanish and neither of us spoke English. And somehow we communicated. It was crazy. What's going on? Seabass, Carl Bazelais, Charlie Silver Fox.
What's up?
What's going on? What do you think? What do you remember of those days back in the middle school?
Oh man, middle school was a rough time, man. I know it probably was for you too. Um, trying to figure out who we were at that time. It's like the age where, you have a lot of uncertainties about the personality, even my voice, when I was 13, 14 years old, man, like I did not even like to hear my own voice in a recording. So it was just one of those things, we had to grow up to kind of accept who we are or what we became. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. Yeah, it was a lot of growing pains and so on. By the way, I'm gonna make me some
Sometimes.
cafe. Yeah, now you're learning Spanish too, so that's
Yeah, man. I mean, the thing is, you know what? When I lived in Cali, right? I was taking Spanish classes because it was easy for me just to get an easy A. So I took a class in Cali in the 11th grade year when I moved to Florida. I took the second part. I mean, those classes I barely went to them, but it managed to get an A in those classes. I was pretty good at a lot of the Spanish. But now I feel like I've actually gone like I feel like I know less Spanish now than I did, let's say, maybe 10 years ago, because I'm not practicing it. Yeah, I'm not practicing it as much. I'm not in the environment as much.
yeah, that's what's up. So I invited you to the podcast because I think we I've been doing this Seduction Tech podcast and I I was looking back and I was like, we were always on this because it's not seduction is the word, right? And I use it to be more provocative or whatever. But really, seduction is that interaction, that human interaction. It could be with anyone to get
Exactly.
something. But we've
Exactly.
always been on this. Like from back in the middle school, we last speaking English and we
Right.
had to be twice as good because we didn't have the money, we didn't have the clothes, we didn't have the language. All we had was whatever we had internally, right?
Right.
So you think that shaped us? Um, you think that that's what it made us stronger as adults?
The fact that we didn't have those things.
Yeah, the fact that we couldn't get the shoes to impress a girl. We couldn't get, we didn't have cars. We didn't have transportation. We didn't have, we couldn't take them anywhere to eat or whatever, so we had to somehow devise a way to attract the opposite sex without what other people around us had. Like we went to like a bust into a rich school and
Right.
these kids had stuff. And we had to compete with these kids with the Tommy Hilfigers and all these clothes. And
Oh,
so do you
German.
think that shaped us?
Honestly, I don't think it might have had some kind of influence on how we perceive life then, but I don't think it shaped us, shaped our seductive nature in any way. Maybe it did. I don't feel that way. Maybe it did in some way, but I'm sure definitely some influence to that. You know.
And so what do you think shaped us? Because this is one of the things when I've been looking and doing a lot of self work and looking back and from childhood and growing up. And I found a lot of things during our era of growing up that shape who I am now without even knowing. For example, I learned so much from you because you and I don't know now it's used, it's overused, but there was a thing that you called clocking, right? So clocking was a now that I'm able to define it, it was don't stare at the girl, right? So you kind of make that initial contact. She looks back. There's a connection. Now you disengage.
Right.
You do you over here, and then the term clocking. Because I remember when you actually used that term, and I was like, "What was that?" And you're like, "Yeah, like when you have a clock and you keep looking at it, it's like don't do that. Just keep it moving.
Right.
Keep
Right.
like look at the time and keep moving." And once I started implementing that, I mean, the whole thing changed where these girls, if you remember, they would approach us. You know, we would be, downtown or the bus stop and they'll come to us,
Right.
without having to do anything. So where did you develop that? Like that's just brilliant.
Honestly, I think just being around some other guys and seeing what they did. I actually my style is a lot like I guess that's a style, right? My older brother, he's my step brother. He lives in California, still Pasadena. Uh, he's a smooth guy, man. Like one thing I can also tell you that seduction doesn't. It's not really like you were saying earlier. It's not just about seducing women, but it's just your presence. For instance, like a peacock, right? A peacock already has its feathers. You can tell a peacock from I think Pele. I think from I don't remember the female version of a peacock, but those birds, they're already so flamboyant. They they attract the female without having to do any kind of mating rituals or mating calls or whatever, right? So I think one of the things that we kind of don't uh, realize is that seduction is not just, you know, it's your presence. Let me move this a little. It's your presence, how you enter a room. For instance, like when we were in that ESOL class, um, I was seated. You walked in. I still remember this. You walked into class and you walked in with a smile, all teeth all out, right? I didn't think anything but, man, this guy, he must have some kind of song or something funny in his mind that's causing him to smile this way, right? So it's just like that attraction, not like in a homophobic way, but attracting someone just when they walk into a room without even saying a word. Like you walked in, you had your smile. You must have been thinking about something really nice, something funny, but that caused me and everybody else around who saw you walk in say, "Oh yeah, what's up? What's going on in that guy's head?" Everything. And so, um, I think attraction and seduction is just something that you basically walk with. You know,
Got it.
that's
So
that's
where you get your swag? Because for people, I grew up with you, so I know you, but let me try to explain it where um you know you would pull like a lot of beautiful women, uh girls from the school, from real life, I mean everywhere, and you wouldn't say much. It was like I always admire that because it's like I felt like I always needed to yap myself into the person. And with you, it was more like 3 words. Come here. And these girls will come in and just like fall. It's like, what's
uh,
that from? Well, is it genetic? Because I know your dad is really smooth too.
yeah, he
You
is.
know.
My dad and my grandpa are pretty smooth guys,
Oh,
but
so it's
like I said, I think building on what I stated earlier, I think it's just like the initial attraction. You don't have to say someone walks in the room, you're gonna know if you're attracted to that person or not, right? Then when you start having conversations, then you can tell, okay, there's a different level of attraction. But I think really it's just your how you position yourself, how you feel about yourself also.
Yeah.
But as
I
far
mean,
as the swag, I think it's just I got a little bit here and there. A lot from my obviously my dad. That's genetics, but from my step brother, like I said, he was one of the guys that I watched when I was 16. Uh, I saw him how he operated, how he dressed, and everything. So I have still a lot of that influence in me.
man.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. I wish we could make this longer because I told you I was like, we're gonna make it short,
Hmm.
but we're gonna do a part two because I also wanted to. This is kind of like my first person interview, where on the podcast it was just me, so it's easier to manage. So I needed to get all these technical things out or whatever. Look at that. That coffee's gonna be looking good. You can't put that on the camera. So I still make it the old school style. So on because you have so much knowledge. You know what I mean? Like what's one story that doesn't incriminate us that um that you could say, hey, this was wow. Or like, you know what? Help me remember one that because we got a lot of them that because I remember, let me tell you, like we got to the point that we didn't know a girl and we could like just give them a hug and they will hug us back and then we'll start hanging out with us without knowing us. They just like, yeah, come here, like let's hang out. And then we start hanging out and like they're like, but who are you? Like they don't know what was that. But I seen you do that over and over again to the point that it's like, yeah, I remember this one beautiful Asian girl. And I was like, yo, because it was out of nowhere. I was like, how did you not out of I think we had like a competitive kind of like who can get the prettiest one, but it was like, how did you pull that? I never even seen that girl before, and now she's here and she was like in love with you. Like, what what's a story that you could relate?
Regarding we're not gonna incriminate, right?
Yeah, yeah.
But
No,
uh,
no,
one
no
example.
names.
One example. It's funny the way you're saying that. Um, the way I was, but I think there's this one night I can say is a club night in Orlando that was an epic night. I think just we didn't really do much. We walked in. I think, like I said, building up on that conversation again, what I stated before, it's just a confidence that you walk in with. It's a confidence that you walk in that causes everyone to say, "Oh man, this person, I want to be around them. I want to be with them. I want to hang out with them." Because if we walk into this place with our heads down, looking like we're some mediocre guys, then they would treat us like that, right? The fact that we walked in with the confidence, they already seen it. We already had our feathers out as a peacock. You get what I mean? So I
Yeah,
think it's just that, man, just that confidence, walking in that confidence, and you
I
always
think I
have
remember the
to,
night you're talking about
yeah,
because I think
you always have to have that confidence anywhere in business, and also in just courting women.
I think I remember the night that you're talking about because I think we knew it was gonna be epic. I think I think I said bye to everybody in the hotel room before that. I was
Oh,
like,
yeah,
I see you guys. See
yeah,
you guys later.
yeah.
Like we knew it was gonna be an epic night.
But what
And
happened
we're out
that
there
night
doing
though?
too much.
That one night you're speaking of was when it just showed me that you tap into a different person. You tap into a
Oh
different person.
man,
You get what I'm
that's
saying? It's like,
deep.
well, this is
Yeah,
this is right now, but then when you leave this environment, then I become this other person. Not so much a person that's not you, that's not Furman, but someone who basically was inside of you already, but you had to tap into that specific,
yeah.
uh, I guess you would say, person to get you to where you wanted to be that night.
See, this helps me even discover me because yeah, you're right. Like there is like I go into this other person that is kind of fearless, right? And I think
Right.
because we all live with, our own insecurities in our head, but the
Right.
other person is like dangerously fearless, where like like there's no stopping. And I don't think that you can't really live their life, in
Right.
the full extent. You gotta
Right.
have limits. But this
Right.
person is the one that's like, okay, there's no limits here. So cool, man. So give me one piece of advice, not even me, just these kids that are texting. They're great texters and talking mess on Instagram. You put them in front of a girl, you know what I mean? This is for those kids that don't have what we needed to have to get the girl. You needed to talk to them in their face, look at them in the eye, not through text, not thinking about what you're gonna say. You have to be there. What's your piece of advice? Like one quick thing that you're like, if you're going to be an attractor, if you're going to be a seducer, if you're going to really own who you are and attract people into your life that want what you're offering, what is that one thing that they should do? I know there's a million things, but what's one thing that you say they should do?
Yeah. The one thing that can come to mind, man, is just being real, being sincere. Just being real with how you approach. I think that will speak volume to a person. You have to act like you care to want to be this person. You have to be present. You have to be present. You can't, if you're talking on the phone with someone, that's still etiquette now, still today. It's like if you're courting a girl, you're talking to her, you don't want to be looking at your phone. You got to make sure you have that eye contact. You got to make sure that you're visibly looking into her eyes, because that's once you establish that connection, then the person can feel something about you. You get what I'm saying? So I think
Absolutely. I like that sincere
yeah,
because that we'll leave
yeah,
that for the next episode. Sincere.
yeah. You gotta,
So
you got,
because there's a lot of sincerity.
yeah, you got to show some sincerity.
Okay, that's what's up. Well, thanks, man, for being here, and we're gonna do the second one, and I think this is a good one for me to like get acclimated, and also for you. And then
Right,
we'll do other serious stuff in other platforms. But this was great, man, because the stuff that you just for me, just the stuff that you were telling me, like oh, you step into this person, and looking at it, I'm like, you're right, because I said bye. Me,
right,
I said goodbye. I see y'all later. Almost like myself is not going to be here anymore.
right,
So that's deep that you're, and then the way that the things that you've said, the clocking. I think people need to understand. We might need to do a whole episode on clocking, and what does that mean and how to implement it. And this is for, like I said, I think a lot of us already know this intuitively, but I think the kids growing up with all this technology are lazy and they don't have they're not fearless. They're fearless on that text, but they're on face to face. They're not fearless. They're nervous. They don't know what to do. And that's the problem. The whole world population is declining. I think that has something to do with it. It has these men that are tough online and their Instagram and their profile is tight. When you see them in person, they're like trembling. They're like nervous, and it should be the other way around.
right.
So I appreciate that. Charlie Sturble Fox, Lito Bass, Sea Bass.
Flex Dapper,
Sincere, I sincerely thank you.
Flex
We
Dapper,
don't give out code
Flex
names
Dapper.
yet. The code names, we went to another level. If you look at it, like when we had code names, it was
Great,
it was insane. But man,
great.
thanks. I appreciate it, and then I will be in touch. I'll send you a link to this.
Okay, for sure. And next time we can both enjoy some smokes.
Man, let me tell you the truth. Look, I am. I don't know if this phone's gonna. I'm in my apartment here in Colombia. I got a little place over here. Let me see. Let me use this camera. And so it's a small place, but I love it here. I come here to work. I come here and I disappear for weeks sometimes and just get my grind on. And I've been going through a lot of personal situations that sometimes I got to run away from
Right,
for my emotional well being. So this is I come to Colombia. I got a place in Mexico,
and it's like little spots that is the bat cave. You know, you got to come out here though. You got to
Right,
come
right.
out here one time and hang out, and we get some work done. But I appreciate you, man. Like being like you've
Always,
always been there for me in the downsides and the upsides. Growing up, I mean, and you know, I got into so much trouble in school, and I could never, you know, like man, you've done things for me that I'm like grateful. So I really, really appreciate it, man.
likewise, man. Likewise.
All right.
So I can't
So
wait for
talk
the
to you
next
soon.